All right, let's see. I have a comment here. Can I do a frog next? I don't know if I've ever done a frog. Hey, I'm Rusty Nelson, your college art professor, and we're painting a frog today. All right, so here's our setup. I got my frog reference. I got the frog sketch in blue line pencil and my short palette ready to rock and roll. So let's get started on this. All right, so I'm going to start with, I think I'm going to get a little bit of this yellow ochre going right here. Right there. There we go. Get some of that. I'm going to put a little skosh of green in it. Okay, just a bit, not much. Kind of a wild color like that. All right, and I'm just going to come in. I'm just going to kind of daub in and work it onto the frog itself. I normally will start with the background, but I think in this case we'll just kind of come in and start dropping in some of these colors and find the spots where it's most yellow, and we'll just throw it out there like that. All right, so right there, right in through here. I'm working on a fast Canson. I want this to be a fast demo today, so I'm going to work with a fast paper so I can dry quickly, and we'll just get this done. Treat it like a study. Just have a little practice here. I'm going to unload my brush, get mostly water. I'm going to thin out some of the color that's bled over into the background a little bit. There we go. There. All right, and there's a little dab over here. I'm going to throw it. It's mostly right up under here. So we're just kind of getting the base colors established. And over here on this foot, right there as well. Okay, good. So really, we're just going to play around and see what our color theory can do for us. All right, I'm going to mix in a little more green and make it a little hotter with some yellow. There we go. Because he's a fairly vibrant green, and he has some more darker greens kind of throughout, but we'll just get it all blocked in, get everything kind of flowing and working. There we go. Kind of work around that as well. There we go. Nice color interactions. Throw that right down in here. With the yellow ochre and the green, we're working with some harmonious colors here, so nothing big can really go wrong at this point. So feel free to kind of riff away on placement of stuff. I'm going to get a little greener green now. We'll mix a little spot right up here. Probably about a tea to a coffee consistency. All right, and it's very wet still, but it is drying quickly. So I'm going to throw a little of the darker greens right back here a little bit. Right along this edge here. It's wet, so it's going to be a nice soft transition. And maybe a little more of a green right down in through here. As I've been telling my students on my drawing class, I'm not worried about this being photorealistic. I want to have a little more flexibility with the color decisions that I'm going to make. I'll put a little green right there. So I am not too concerned. I'm looking at the reference only as a source of information, data, and I can then kind of decide as to what I'm going to do with it. All right, so I think I've got the greens kind of established. So And as that's drying on the frog, I'm going to mix up a little blues and I get some of that phthalo blue, very thin. I don't need a lot right here. All right, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to block in just some of this color for the shadow. And I'm kind of wanting to keep it fairly intense blue. Whereas in the photograph, it's kind of a neutral, dark color, right? In this case, I just want to keep it a little brighter. Okay. Again, we're kind of working in that whole harmonious color venue. Let's get some of it right down here as well. Yeah, there we go. Throw some of it right up here. Like I said, it's wet, so it's going to go everywhere, and that's okay at this point. I don't have a big issue with that. All right, I'm going to unload my brush. Working with a big flat brush, one of those Cosmo top. Is that what that is? Oh, look at that. I've used it so long, I've worn away all of the writing on it. There we go. Throw a little more right there. All right, and then I'm going to just come right over here. Just going to soften this right here and right here. Pull that out. There we go. Cool. And as that's drying, I'm going to bounce back over. I'm going to grab a little smidge of orange right here. And maybe a little burnt sienna. Good, because there are some really nice spots on this frog that are fairly warm, earth tone. I'm just going to drop some of that in there as well. Right up here. There we go. This leg is a little greener. This one right under here has a lot of that color as well. And I'm going to try to keep that little lip right there. And I think I missed it. I'm going to have to come back over and pick some of that out. Right there on this one. Here we go. Throw it right there. Throw a little bit over here on that one, that one, that one. There we go. Okay, so it's starting to dry a little bit. I'm just softening, pulling that color out. I'm working wet on dry, so it's not going anywhere. So I'm coming back in to feather it, just lighten it up, get those hard edges to soften. All right. All right, like that. There we go. All right, cool. That looks like fun. I'm going to put a little smidge of it right back here. I see some reflected color right back in here. That'll work nicely. And any other spots. Maybe just a little more right up here. And right in here. I think right in there we need some. Cool. And a little more right down in here. All right, we're getting a frog. I'm going to unload. I'm going to pick this just a little bit right here. Okay. And because it's green, it's got that yellow, I think a nice color in here, something out in the background would be a little violet, very thin violet. And I'm just going to kind of block that out here like that. Maybe a little thicker. How about that? The frog's actually sitting on a fairly light background, so I'm just going to throw a little more of that in here. Pull it out this way too. There we go. And maybe just a smidge on the back side here. I'm just dropping some color in and seeing what happens. That looks good. I like that. Purple and those oranges are going to interact nicely. There we go. And we'll just get a little dry brush going too. All right, cool. All right, so it's dried for a few minutes. It's a little damp. I can still feel a little moisture on the paper, but we're going to get started in stage 2, and we're going to start identifying and defining some of the bigger shapes and a little more richer colors and saturations, and then lead into what we're going to be doing with all the detail work in stage 3. So let's get started. So here we are right down here. Frog is dried nicely. So I got a little bleed over on this spot right down here on the shadow, but we're going to come back in and we're going to hit a little more saturated color and probably try to pick up a little more richer, intense color, exaggerate the colors that maybe are in the photograph. What I want to do is mix up maybe a little more of the blue, a little more of the violet in here. So richer red, reddish violet, blue. You know, I put it in with that ultramarine blue, and I think it looks pretty nice. It's going to be a nice contrast right down here. So I'm going to work from top to bottom, so hopefully I don't drag my hand through anything. So I'm just going to do just a little drawing. I'm working with my Cosmo Top Spin round. That's a number 3 round. So we're just going to come in here and just block in these big shapes for the shadows, and that's going to automatically start giving it a little pop, a little punch. All the fun really starts happening in here when you start getting all the contrast starting to work. So all right, so we'll just bend that little shape. It comes right up here, right along his little butt. Right there, the leg connects right in there, so cool. It's a sharp, it is a sharp shadow, so the light source is fairly close to the little frog, so it's not a feathered shadow at all. It has some pretty sharp edges, and I'm going to come in here, come into the body just a little bit. There we go. That's a lovely little shape right there in that nice blue violet. All right, and there's a little smudge right over here. I'm being a little interpretive there. That's okay. All right. Come right over here, right off the back side of his foot right there. Quick little strokes. It's a nice color. Really looks good against that green and that orange. All right, let's go get this little shape. Let me get that elbow right up here. Good. Get that little pop out right there. There we go. Good, good. Comes right along this backside, straightens it out, and right along that finger. Good. And we're going to get that big shape right there. I'm trying not to dip my hand into any colors. I'm going to come right along that finger right up here. There we go. Come under the E, underneath his chin. And get a little of a divot right here, right along that leg, right there. Good. All right, so that's looking pretty cool. That's a nice color. Get a little more of it. There we go. Got a little more of a blue. I'm going to throw it right up underneath, right in here. A little darker. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to do the same thing in and around that eye. Come in, just kind of define that whole structure right there. Get the eyeball. It's kind of a almond shape. And then we got this shape right above the eyelid. Comes around that way. Good. We got some on the back side over here. And then it transitions over to that shape right there. And right there. And we get that ear. Pretty sure that's his ear. Who knows frogs? Anybody know frogs? There we go. And it even has a little structural shape coming right down along here. There we go. So there we go. We've used the big shapes to help define the form a little better. And we got some nice color combinations happening, and those shadows need to dry. Oh, I see a nice deep shadow I need to get. And it's right here off of this one right here. It's going to come right along that finger right there. And this one comes right off of it right there. So using that negative space to kind of help define the positive. So I do, like I said, I normally start out with the background first, but in this case, I just threw it onto the subject matter first, and then we'll deal with the background. All right, so it's going to come in. We're going to get that crease in his leg right there. We have it right there. I'm going to just pick a little bit of it right in through here too. Broken edge. And just pull that right down to the rump. He's got a little rump bump right there. And I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. A little more water in it. I'm going to throw that color right here on that elbow break. And throw it on this whole shape of his leg right there. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to throw that thin. Hang on, I'm going to define that leg first. Right here. Right there. And then we have that other edge, and it's a little flatter, comes down out and around like that. Cool. There we go. I'm just going to find that shape right in through here. There we go. That's all just blue. Yeah. Just some blue paint. Blue violet. All right, now I'm going to grab that thinner wash. I'm just going to glaze in just a little more color right there. Make it a darker green. We'll throw it over here as well. And pull it right up here like that as well. That's looking pretty good. We'll throw just a little bit of it here. We'll throw a little bit on the side of the fingers there. Right there. Right up on this one a little bit. And I'm going to throw that shadow just out there on this separation from foreground leg. All right, now, oh, I see a shadow I missed. All right, so I'm going to throw that shadow right under here on his leg. Comes all the way down here like that, and then bows out. There we go. Cool. That's looking good. And this is awfully sharp, so I'm just going to take my water and just loosen it up a little bit. Bring it back over here. That looks nice. And I'm going to throw a bit of that blue right on this side of the eye. It's very thin. I'm going to lead it right around to the nostril right there. And we get a little orange in there now. All right, so I just made a neutral right there. Put that orange in with the blue, and I got a neutral color that I'm going to just throw right up under here and onto the leg right there. Bend it around so he's got a little more depth there. I'm going to throw a bit of it right under here as well, onto that finger, and then onto this finger as well. Cool. That's looking good. We'll just get a little bit on those knobs. There we go. Let's get these over here too. There's one there. There we go. All right. So what else do I need? I'm going to get a little darker green. All right. I'm going to mix some of that blue in with my green there. That's nice. How's that look? All right. I'm going to just streak and stroke it just a little bit right along this leg. Right like that. I want that sharper edge right there. I'm going to soften it right there. And I'm going to throw a little bit of it over here. Good. And right up here. Actually, I'm going to do two right there. One right there. And it's going to bend and go that way, and so is this one. Cool. Now, let me get a little more green. It needs to be a little thick. Let me get some of that Viridian. All right, so now I'm going to throw a little bit of it up here. Cool. Okay. I'm going to feather that a little bit. Okay, so a little more intense green right there. And I'll just throw that green right in here on the back side of that eye socket structure. Right along here. Pops out. There we go. We're just building a little more color complexities on these forms. And I'm going to get, he's kind of got a little bulge right out there, so I'll just catch that bulge, throw that down here like that. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. All right, so that's pretty much color blocked at this point, and we've come in stage 2 and defined some of the shapes and saturated the color a little bit. Now we're going to wait and let it dry for just a second, and we're going to come back in with our stage 3 with all the saturation, contrast, structure, and edge work, line work, all that. The next stage is where it's really going to start to pop, so stay tuned. You got to see this. It's a lot of fun, so give me a minute. Here we are. It's dried. I can touch it. It's not going to lift anything. So there's definitely some additional saturation that needs to happen once we build a little more of the structure. So I'm going to mix up a little thick mixture of the ultramarine and the sepia, or yeah, that's sepia right there. So it's very dark. It's not black, but it's very dark, and it'll serve as our contrast. And I'm just essentially going to start building and working my way around and build the structure on this little guy. So if I can get it to work, and I'm working with a number 1 brush at this point, and there is a lot of glazing that still has to happen. So I'm just going to come in and just keep working my way around and getting all that structure to happen. We got a little nostril thing happening right here. It still isn't quite thick enough, so I'm going to drop a little more into it. There we go. Okay, just searching for wet spots. All right, and as I'm painting this part, I'm going to try to keep it up. Hang on, I'm going to turn me off. There we go. I got excited. All right, now we can come back in. All right, now you don't have to watch my top of my head. All right, so we're just going to work our way around. I'm doing a little line work. There we go. Broken edges, irregular marks. There's a very dark underline right there. All right, and then I'm going to come right under here. There we go. Just doing a little bit of structural work. And all the fun stuff starts to happening. This is when your drawing skills and ability to make an interesting mark without looking like it's been outlined, all of that stuff comes into play. You're just putting that right mark in the right spot. So it's also very handy. And a good thing to be practicing is your mark making, your drawing, be it a wet line or a dry line. If you're working with a pastel or a charcoal, we're just kind of coming in and adding that structure. Some of these are just little touches, It's all you need for it to read right. Let's see, a big shape right in here. Pop that in there. We got a nice dark shape over here. I hit it with the blue. All right. And right over here, right along the separation of that leg and foot happening right in through here. Get it right up here as well, right on that shadow. Good. Right over here as well. It's very dark right under here. So we'll just find that. Add that in there. And then we'll do some quick marks for the feet. There we go. We get a little bit right up here. Okay. There, oh yeah. Now he's starting to come together. Let me get the little footies up here. Get this one. Good. Yeah, there we go. Let me get this one too. Yeah, there's a lot of little details that's all we're doing. We're just adding in the things that really convince the viewer's eye that they're seeing a lot more than what they really are seeing that's actually on the paper, right? So we'll throw a little bit more back here. There's a good crease. I'm going to pull that leg right up in there. Good crease right there. Good dark shape right there. And right back here. All right, so cool. That's looking pretty good. He's starting to pop off of the page. All right, cool. Oh, I'm going to define this little leg right there a little more. There we go. All right, look at that a little more. All right, and then, oh, I got one more foot to do. So many little footies. I got a little dot out there. I just made a boo-boo. Just quick strokes. Doesn't have to, I just made a boo-boo there too. There we go. All right, and I'm just gonna drag that in like that. There's that shoulder right there. All right, so cool. Let me fix my boo-boos. I'm gonna just get a little clear water, just lighten it up, pull it out. Same thing right up here. Just gonna lighten it up. If it has a little, that's okay. That looks okay. All right, now here's where I'm gonna get a bigger brush, and we need to saturate a little more. So I'm gonna get a nice puddle of green, a little more yellow on that. There we go. All right, and we're gonna get a little more, much more of a green in through this body, right through here. All right, and that's just a glaze. We're just gonna come in, add more green to it. It's a light mixture, so it's gonna dry. All right, I'm gonna throw a little more on this back here. I'm gonna throw a little more right on the front end of that leg. I'm gonna intensify that right there, right down there. This back side of the head, yeah. Get a little more viridian in that too. Okay, so get that underneath, right in there. All right, I'm gonna throw a little more right there and over here. Let that dry. I can't mess with it too much. And I'm gonna come back over to this orange. A little red in there too. All right, we're gonna do the same thing. We're just going to add a little more of a glaze onto everything. Intensify those colors. Get a little more color interactions happening. That's fun. Throw that back here. Comes over here. Got a lot of it on this foot here. That is a lot of fun. Ooh, wow. I went out into the shadow. Oh my. All right, we're going to intensify this right there, right under here, right there. Don't stroke it too much when you're glazing, or you'll start lifting color, especially on this cheap paper. If that's what you're working on, you can get away with more of it with a better paper. But in this case, it would start lifting pretty quickly and easily. We'll throw a little more on the butt right there. I'm going to throw more of it right up here as well, and right in here. Yeah. That's looking pretty good. A little more right back here. All right. So the colors are starting to meld nicely. That's looking better. I'm going to get a little more green. How's that look? It's still pretty wet. I'm going to get a little more viridian, a little more yellow. There we go. Maybe a little bit of phthalo in there. There we go. Ooh, baby. All right, that is some serious freaking green. Cool. That looks good. We'll throw some more of it in through here. There's actually a nice little ridge right there. That's where the plane of his body shifts. There's a nice dark green right in through here. We'll throw a little bit on this eye up here. Again, right up here. And right under here. I might be rushing it a little bit, but that's okay. All right. All right, now let's get some frickin' orange. All right, now that's a thick orange. And we are going to go to town with that. There's some really hot highlights right there. That's cool. All right. I'm going to get a little bit of that dark color. I want to put it right under, right along this edge right under here. I just want it to be a little darker. Right in here. I'll feather that out a little bit. Good. All right, unload my brush. Just feather that edge. Perfect. That gives it a nice little pop. I'm going to do the same thing right back here. Right where the frog meets the shadow. I'm trying to protect that blue. I like that blue against that green. So I'm just going to feather this side of the shade. We'll do the same thing up here. Throw it out. And right down here, we'll throw it out. Unload it and feather. And feather. Oh, that's a damp brush. There we go. All right. And the glazing seems to be working. I can also, I'm going to grab my small brush, or let's do my number 3. Unload it. I'm going to get some of this green. And I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to, I can do a number of things. You can do it like this, just kind of do an irregular dabble, right? You could also, if you felt frisky, and it's kind of wet in spots, you can do some splatters like that. And if you don't like them, just come in and just kind of soften them. You're just really kind of going for a surface texture. So it doesn't hurt to kind of soften them without totally destroying the structure of the speckle. All right. And as you know, whenever I break out the Pro White, I'm coming to a close. Oh, I see something I forgot to do. All right, there we go. I'm going to get some of that orange, and I'm going to come in right under the eye. Do that. And then I'm going to get some of that green. I'm going to come in on the top part of it, right there. There we go. All right, so mixing up my Pro White. And we're going to dub in some of the really nice little hot highlights on the body. There's some up here. We'll just throw a couple like that. We'll get that highlight right there on the top part of his eye. We have a few over here on the little fingers. We'll just drop them in. Right over here on this leg, there's a hot highlight right along here. And right up on this edge, we'll just drop one right along there. Right back here. Right up on this leg. That leg could use a little more saturation. We'll throw a little bit right up here. Right on this elbow. Oh, hang on. Okay. Throw some right on that elbow. Right up here. Boom, boom. There we go. There's a nice highlight right here on this one. Boom, boom. Even kind of along down in here. I want to get that one again. There's a little one right here. And I'm going to hit this spot right here. Just a big white spot right there. All right, so we are crashing to the end of this little watercolor. I got a boo-boo there. I'm going to fix it real quick. Okay. All right, unloaded my brush. Going to fix a little spot. I don't know where that came from, but I'm going to fix it. I'm going to just lift it out. Little water, and it's gone. Let me do a little dab. Cool. All right. And let me grab my big brush. Oh, hang on, I need to clean a spot. All right. I get a little violet. That is not a little violet, that's a lot of violet. All right. So, I'm just going to come over and just add a little more in here. Just for a little more saturation. That's fun. And I'm going to even throw a little bit of it onto the frog. You can see it makes that weird neutral color interacting with the green. There we go. Let's get this shadow right under here. There we go. So that is a lot of fun. Unload that. Just going to soften a little bit and pull it out. All right. We just painted a frog. I think it is my first frog I think I've ever painted. So thank you for that new experience, and I hope it was helpful for you to see how that was put together, and the stages and the layering, the details, the saturation, all of that. I hope that was helpful. If it was, please give me a like and a subscribe. Share this out to somebody you think might be interested in learning how to paint with watercolor. If you're interested in resources to help your creative journey, head over into my website. I have stuff to download if you're interested in figure drawing and drawing faces and things like that. I have Loomis, I have Riley, I have Bridgman out there on my website. I have a bunch of links in the video description for tools and supplies and all sorts of good stuff, books, everything's out there. Click on those. Those are affiliate links, so if you buy anything, I'll get a small commission. And if you think I'm doing anything worth a hoot on this channel, head over to my Patreon channel and give me a $5 a month membership. I really do appreciate that. That helps a lot. And a new feature, I've only been promoting this in the last few videos. I have a 15-week beginner to intermediate calendar of projects and exercises, the type of things I would work students through, the type of exercises and things I would work through in 15 weeks to get them up from ground zero up to working with an intermediate skill level and ready to move into their next level of studio courses. So these are all linked over to some videos I've already done and posted. It's like a tour of me starting out about a year and a half, year and 9 months ago. So you'll get to see my skills develop as well, speaking on camera, the video editing, everything. It's a hot mess, so it might even be entertaining. So head over to Gumroad and you can buy that, and I do appreciate any purchases, and I hope it is helpful, and let me know, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.